So, Chris, tell us a little bit about Star 86 Drumleaf, how it all came about.
Sure. So we're a game studio focusing on delivering games to kids that bring value on top of entertainment. That's Drumleaf. Star 86 is our flagship game. This is a multiplayer game in a browser on a PC where songs materialize as planets. So we give kids a spaceship and they can fly to planet. And the bits of every song are there to find, so the kids can explore the place, find instruments, and begin collaborating and composing with other kids in real time.
Some of this came out of your university studies, the idea?
That's right. So initially it was entered into the Spark Entrepreneurship Challenge at the University of Auckland. At the time I was just completing a creative arts postgraduate degree. So Spark was kind of the impetus to see if I could turn some of these ideas into businesses.
So what was the insight? What are you trying to solve or achieve as a result of the website?
So I guess back then the initial idea was I liked being creative with music, and I saw that the internet enabled you to do that with other people. So I tried to make a product that I wanted to use. And then very early on in the piece, they got us to market validate our business ideas. So I wrote down what it was, and I wrote down what some competitive products were, and then I asked people if they would use our idea without telling them which one it was. And from that very quickly realized that it wasn't people my age that wanted to use it. The younger you went, the more they were interested in it. So kind of discovered that I was working on a kid's product.
So the intended audience you started out with ended up becoming a very different audience in the end.
That's right. So initially thinking 18 to 35-year-olds would love this kind of engagement, and then realizing actually it's kids that want to be social but don't yet have permission to leave the home, stray too far, or drive to see their friends, but still need to learn their social skills and where they fit,
and also generally quite restricted in terms of what they can access on the net as well too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, a lot of kids are not that restricted. So obviously that's something that needs to be improved.
Yeah.
And that's something that we take very seriously. We don't have the ability to stop them from going everywhere else on the internet, but certainly when they're on our site, we make sure that they're safe, that there's live people that are looking into the context of what they're doing, and that they're not able to share private information like phone numbers or their address, and that they're getting the kind of feedback that supports their creativity as opposed to just being told that they're no good.
How much did this change the whole approach? Because all of a sudden you're dealing with a market that clearly doesn't have spending power and can't use credit cards and so forth. So did this mean you really had to go back and design the whole business model?
So yeah, that is a big challenge that I would probably not take on in my next business, is that you're creating a product for a customer that does not have any spending power, and so the purchaser is different to the customer and they have different needs. So the parent obviously wants their kid to be happy, but also spending their time doing something that's enriching and safe from predatory behavior or the other types of things you find online, whereas the child is really just looking for the most fun experience possible. So we certainly had to add features to the game that we wouldn't have otherwise have to add. So the safety is a big part of it, and that's a staffing it's a staffing cost, but also technical infrastructure cost. But in terms of the end user experience, it's pretty similar to what we would have been building for adults as well.
What did you find in terms of when you were talking to the kids, presumably as part of your research and your validation? What are they looking to get out of the website?
Well, kids don't always know what they want. Certainly they're looking for a fun, interesting way to engage with other kids. So what we know they like is kind of real-time feedback and opportunities to use their imagination. But often what we're told is something that they've already seen on the market, so we can't take that as a great indication of what they're actually after.
What about the competitive space? Who are you up against, and any well-known names?
I guess Minecraft is the most well-known at the moment. So that came from an employee of King that made Candy Crush Saga. One of that company had an art project on the side. This is back in 2009. And got some traction with that, so he pulled away from King. And that's blown into a massive success, where last year they turned over 290 million in revenue with a team of less than 30 people. So per employee, they're doing better than Google. Some lesser known ones, let's see. Monkey Quest is a Nickelodeon product. Club Penguin and Moshi Monsters are reasonably well known.
So how difficult is it competing? I mean, these are big companies with big budgets, and versus you as a startup. How does that change the playing field?
That's right. So this is a common problem for a Kiwi company. We're not as well resourced. The good thing is it's a gigantic market, especially when you look at it globally. Actually, Japan's just taken on the number one spot in terms of mobile gaming spend. So we're not just focused on these markets. Moshi Monsters is in the UK, Club Penguin's in the US. We're looking at the world as our potential market. And while we're not as well resourced, there's a lot of talent here in New Zealand, and you can get a lot done for not too much.
And what about staff complement? I think it is currently about 10 at the moment. So how much more do you think you'll have to grow to grow the model?
So I'm wanting to plateau at about this level, because if we go too much bigger, we're going to have to divide into two teams, and that has an additional administrative cost associated with it. So if we can grow the company to break even with this size team, I'd be quite happy.
And you managed to achieve quite a global footprint as well. In fact, New Zealand only accounts for something like 7% of your market.
That's right. So America's our biggest with 42%, then UK is 18%, and then we have Canada, Australia, Czech Republic, Israel. Those are really our bigger markets. But New Zealand punches above its weight.
How do the kids find out about the game?
Usually it's word of mouth. We do a little bit of online advertising, but we're still working to refine the product, so we haven't done those big initiatives like TV advertising, which we hope to do in the future. And
so does the purchase process work on the basis that the kids hound their parents to pay for it?
Yeah, there's a certain amount of that. So it takes, on average, about 2 months before a kid manages to get their parent across the line, and we expect that the parent kind of initially comes to learn about the game by looking over their shoulder, and then gets shown a spaceship that the kids built or a song that they've composed. So comes to know our company before they end up handing over the credit card details.
And what are they paying for it?
So a monthly fee of $7.95. But we also have different tiers. So if you pay for 6 months, you get a discount on that. And
so that sort of maintains a reasonable degree of cash flow for you as well too?
Yeah, subscription is certainly a good business model. We need to grow to a certain scale before all of the costs of the studio are met. So that's kind of what we're aiming towards.
And Claudia Batten, of course, well known in the country is chairing your board. So obviously you've got some high-profile names behind you as well too.
Yeah, we've got some really excellent people that believe in the project. We have some really strong underlying philosophy about what we want to do in kids' entertainment that I think is the main driver for everyone getting out of bed in the morning. Because certainly it's not easy doing a startup, and I'm very thankful to have people like Claudia, Andy Hamilton of the Ice House, Greg Sitters of Sparkbox, Mario Winans of Pickpock, and some more brilliant people coming to join us now as we set up an office in the US and grow our footprint over there.
Because this originally started out as Big Little Bang, didn't it? And then you end up having to change the name because it began to create some problems with a competing product.
That's right. So after we trademarked Big Little Bang, a game called Little Big Planet was acquired by Sony, which meant it had all the resources of Sony behind it. So it grew and grew and grew, and we also learned that our audience was a bit older than we expected it to be. So we designed it for kind of a 9-year-old, and it turns out our audience is more like kind of 11, 12, even older than that.
What about the capital issues along the way? You've had a couple of funding rounds?
Yep, so mainly angel investors here in New Zealand, some funds, so K1W1 has participated, NZVIF, Sparkbox.
And at the moment, what's the next big objective for you in terms of, I guess, trying to reach some scale?
So we're just focused on the US for the next 6 months. So we're looking to bring marketing expertise in, and we're tuning the game. So we're making that marketing expense go as far as it possibly can.
You're travelling literally between New Zealand and the US at the moment, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks there. How do you find that, and how have you set up the business, and what's in the US and what's in New Zealand?
So I'd be lying if I didn't say it was challenging. Mainly, it's very exhausting going between time zones and working in two geographies, trying to keep the culture of the company strong. How we get around that is by frequent communication. So we use tools like Google Hangouts is very useful, and trying to empower everybody in their geography to make decisions, so there's no dependencies that are dislocated.
So have you got sales and marketing in the US and research here, development here, or how's it split between the two?
Yeah, I think basically that's it, but there's some chopping and changing over the months, but that's the basic layout.
What have been some of those insights you've learned along the way as an entrepreneur that you might change for next time?
I guess the biggest learning has been hiring, kind of what you need to focus on in terms of your who you bring into the company, whether it's attitude over expertise and experience. Those are kind of the things I've picked up that I'm definitely going to apply next time round.
What do you who do you find as a typical employee that works well in an environment like this?
So startups are very scrappy. So the jack of all trades, master of none is really the right type of person to be working in a company like ours.
Younger, or what sort of experience thing?
Well, younger has benefits in that they're kind of more, I guess, as you get older, you have more capital requirements. So having a kids, having a mortgage to pay off. These are things that can funnel you down a certain path, which is not necessarily conducive to being part of a startup, certainly leading a startup. So yeah, definitely young is a good place to start. At the same time, we always hire for experience.
And what would you like to see, or where would you like to see the company in 3 or 4 years' time?
I'd like to, let's see, well, ultimately we'd like to be a Jim Henson company or a Disney. In 3 or 4 years' time, I'd certainly like to see a couple of hits under our belt.
And increasing the profile to the likes of schools and so forth, is that another sort of target opportunity for you as well?
Potentially, so not necessarily. To date, we're really looking to improve our profile with kids, because ultimately we want the kid to be the driver of using our product. But schools, I think there's a huge opportunity to add value to the school system at the moment, one that schools are not currently able to solve. They need entrepreneurs to come in and generate new models of content that kids find engaging. So certainly something we're looking at, but not necessarily improving our brand to schools.